Well, first of all, thank you ever so much indeed for joining us today. Real pleasure, so thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Now, one of the big issues of the conference is equity and inclusion in transportation. So, I mean, first of all, how big a problem do you think it is?
Tremendous. And listen, this is the defining economic issue of our generation, of our lifetime, correct? So it is a big challenge, but I am so optimistic with the fact that we've got just tremendous opportunities to start addressing and solving this particular challenge. The difference that this could make is all about accessibility. And that is for the people in the community that need transportation most. So it's a difference of whether they have accessibility to healthcare, quality healthcare, education, and jobs. That's the difference that equity and transportation makes.
What's great is there seems to be a lot of focus on this at the moment, doesn't there? And particularly at this conference. What do you think some of the steps are that we need to take?
Clearly, we've got to, and I think this is happening with the current Biden administration, the focus on policies. Because what often will happen is that there are competing interests that sometimes result in policies that create further inequities. So understanding how that begins is really important. And I think the focus that we're seeing from the administration, where equity and infrastructure is first, is very important. So we have to really think about that. And it's while we're thinking about moving forward as well, we've got to also reflect on the past. And so that we don't recreate problems, but we need to go back and address those inequities that have been put in place by communities that have been bifurcated or disconnected as a result of transportation, whether it be a bridge or a railway. So those issues, particularly in lower income, poor communities, disadvantaged communities, communities of color exist. So we've got to, at the same time, fix those issues while we're prioritizing the going forward as it relates to transportation solutions.
To fix those issues, how much does it matter that we have women and people of color in roles of leadership within transportation?
I think it's a significant criteria for solving those issues, because without those understandings, that relationship, being relatable to those communities and diverse populations, if you don't have folks that think differently, bring different perspectives to the table, then you may not get the best solutions and outcome. You really have to have women and people of color that can bring those perspectives. And together we can solve these issues. Now in this industry, though things were improving before COVID-19, we've been set back in terms of women in the workplace, as many had to go back and take care of children and different things during the pandemic. But we were making steady progress. But where we've got the deficit is women in leadership. We tend to be way behind as it relates to women overall. And certainly as we continue to go further up the corporate ladder and the leadership ladder, less women there, less women on boards as well, and less people of color. So we've got to right the ship. I'm really excited about the work that I personally get to do with ITS America, and I'm part of the Mobility X Steering Committee, where we're focusing on just that, measuring the impact that it makes as we continue to increase the number of women in leadership roles.
We're all very focused on COVID and coming through and coming out of COVID. But as you look to the future, as you look through this, are you optimistic that this is something that this industry is really going to tackle?
I am. I absolutely am. And it's going to be important, because that sustainable, equitable solution is really what's going to be important. This cannot just be the trend or the flavor of the day. This has to be the way that we think about business and we think about transportation forever. And my optimistic vision is that working with the public and private sector and the communities, we will have the priorities necessary to ensure that we've got an intelligent transportation system that provides the mobility that we need. It'll be important that funding continues to be a priority from our administration, and that as that funding is provided and appropriated, that it also is through the lens of equity, so that communities throughout the country are giving the appropriate equitable funding and investment.
So that's really fascinating. Thank you ever so much. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed the conversation.